トイ・ストーリーやバグズ・ライフの監督でファインディング・ニモの制作総指揮も務めたジョン・ラセター。携わる作品のどれもが高い評価とともに世界的な大ヒットを記録してきました。アメリカの 3DCG アニメーションスタジオピクサーの中心的存在で、宮崎監督とは20年来の親交があります。
じゃあ最初に、ラッサーさんずっとこのジブリ美術館に来たかったっていうふうに伺ってますけども、実際ここに来てみての率直な感想を聞かせてください。
This museum is amazing. It's like stepping into a Miyazaki-san film. The detail here is spectacular. I'm a big lover of architecture, and so just the building itself is great. But the thing that impressed me the most was how this museum communicates to children and to adults as well the art of animation. It does it better than I've ever seen in my life. It's just great.
実際想像していたものと来てみて、その何か違いはありましたか
？The last time I visited Miyazaki-san was in February of the year 2000. And at that time, Miyazaki-san was designing the museum, so I got to see the drawings. And it was so exciting because it looked like one of his films. And then a number of people from Pixar had been over to Tokyo, and they had visited the museum, and they kept coming back saying, "John, wait till you see the museum." I was I've been so excited. So it's what I was looking forward to on this trip to Tokyo to see more than anything else was this museum. And so when I got here, everything was better than I expected. Even from the sign on the street out front, coming through, it was just beautiful.
宮崎駿のその作品の世界の中に入ってくるような感じがあるっていうふうにおっしゃってたんですけど、彼は映画の中で、今までにたくさんの建物を実は建てていて、ラッサーさんが一番最初に影響を受けたカリオストロの城、あれも建物を彼は建ててるわけですよね。でそういう作品の中に出てくる彼の建物と、ここの実際にある美術館の建物とに何か共通点を見出すことはできますか
？The similarities between this building and the buildings that are in Miyazaki's films are that of scale. And it's something that I love too. I think Miyazaki has this fantastic sense. It's kind of a cartoony scale of things. He also clearly loves nature. And there's a lot of the forms of things almost have an organic quality to them. And there's also his love of European architecture comes through too. So it's a combination of those three things. It's a cartoony scale, the sense of the kind of organic nature, and this European architecture sensibility all weaved into one. So you walk in, at times you look and you feel like you're in Laputa, right? And there's times when you look and it's like Kiki's delivery service, or Castle Cagliostro, or it's on and on. It's these beautiful sort of views that you see, but also pulling in the elements from his movies. For instance, the huge fan in the center, looks something straight out of Laputa. I just love that. But also the stained glass windows are just so magical with all the characters in there. And the thing I also love too, and my son Jackson, who's 6, he loves the small doors and the archways just for children. What I love to see kids here. When we were here the other day and it was open to the public, and just to see the kids running around here, you can understand, a major reason why this was built is just for kids to discover things. And the big cat bus you know. I was lucky. I got to come here before it opened, so I got to go into the cat bus. I know that adults aren't supposed to, but I had to go in there. And it's a dream come true. That's the best I could describe it, because whenever you see, I think anybody sees Totoro for the first time, and the cat bus pulls up, one of my favorite scenes of any movie, when the cat bus arrives at that bus stop, you want to ride in it. You want to ride in it. When the girls get in there and they sit down and the seats kind of do this, you know, and it's all furry, you just want to ride in the cat bus. So here at the museum, to actually be able to climb into the cat bus and it's all furry, it was magical. It was so fun. But then to come back later in the day when the museum was open, and to see the kids standing in line, waiting to get to that cat bus, the look on their face, it's the most exciting look I've ever seen on children's faces. And when they finally got it, their chance to play on it, they just go crazy. It's so fun. It was really, really special.
その宮崎駿らしさっていうのをラスターさんが感じる場所っていうのはどこなんでしょうかね。
To me, the thing that is most distinctive in the Miyazaki style here in the museum is probably that interesting European flair. He always takes it and finds the really charming elements of, I don't know whether it's Swiss or German, or it's like kind of around the Alps, all the, you know, from Italy to France, all that, right in that area. He's really, he just pulls the most appealing elements of that kind of style of architecture, and then does it in a fresh way. You know, it's something that we always try to do at Pixar, is to try to show the audience something that they're really familiar with, but then take it and show it to them in a way that they've never seen before. And that's what Miyazaki has done with this physical building, is you walk in and there are elements that it's like you feel like you're familiar with, be it in you know, the European style or whatever, but then it's all put together in a way that you've never seen before. You know, from the entrance, you walk in and that magical ceiling that's light up. It's so special, and the stained glass windows, and going down that long stairway, you know, into the museum, and when you come out and you in the big you know, the big open area going up to the large ceiling fan, and then the bridges and the little spiral staircases, all that it's so magical, and it has such a unique take on that sort of caricatured European style. And that's something I've always loved in his, you know, his films. Of course, the ones that are set in Europe, you know, and it's so appealing. You want to stay here. You want to kind of, frankly, you want to live here, you know. And I feel really lucky that my wife Nancy and I have visited the museum now, because we're designing a new house, and so we're going to go back and put some of this style into our house. You know, the one thing that really surprised me is when you led me up to the roof, and I turned the corner, and there was the magnificent robot from Laputa. And the pose of that robot is so special, you know, because it's just, it's so sad, and it's so poignant there, kind of, you know, and the parts of him, and the fact that you have weeds growing out of him, that's so amazing, you know, that you were able to do that. That's fantastic.
今おっしゃったように、そのヨーロッパのいろんなその要素がこの建物の中に入ってると思うんですね。でそういうもので、まあ、日本人から見ると非常に、欧米的なんだけども、よくよく見ると非常にヨーロッパのものと日本のものがこうミックスされている独自の雰囲気があると思うんですね。でそういうものを、まあ、そのアメリカ人として、まあ、西洋文明の側にいるラスターさんから見ると、そういうものってどういうふうに見えるんですか。
The building itself has quite a European flair to it, but it also, there is some elements that have a a Japanese flavor to it. And that's what I love, that it's not really one particular style. It's Miyazaki style, right? It's like he's pulled from all these things and made it very, special. The detail is remarkable. I mean, that's the thing that even to all the little handles, the lights, my wife borrowed my camera and went around and photographed all the tiniest little details to remember this museum by. But it does, I mean, it really does have, in the same way that Miyazaki's films, whether they're set in Europe or set in Japan or set in wherever, they really have this Miyazaki style, which is Japanese animation, at its finest. But it's unique to him too, and I think this building is that way.
僕が多くのアニメーションを見て思うのが世界観というか背景が本当にその書き割りのようにあってそこで、お話が単に展開されるというものが非常に多いと思うんですね。でところがそのピクサーの作品っていうのはその世界観が非常にしっかりしていてその空間っていうものを非常に大事にしている。でその中でその空間とそのお話とキャラクターがうまく噛み合ってその作品の世界に奥行きを作ってると思うんですね。
I've always said to make a successful animated feature, something that the audiences really enjoy, you have to do three things. You have to tell a really compelling story. You populate it with very memorable characters. But both of those have to be set in a very believable world. It doesn't mean it has to be realistic, but it has to be believable. And I think that's what Miyazaki's films I've always been so inspired by. And he has those three things in every one of his films. And every one of his films are very unique. And in our films we like to do that too, to do something completely new. But still, when the lights dim in a theater, I always want to take people away to another place. But to make that world so believable that you could reach up there and touch it, or you completely understand sort of what's going on there. And there's kind of a set of rules, a set of physics, a set of all that stuff that fits with the visuals and how it's designed. So it makes it very believable. And I think that's what also, like I said, I've been so inspired by Miyazaki's films. When you look at the world like in Laputa, for instance, it is this fantastic world that he's created that feels kind of like it's in Europe, but it's and the level of technology is great in the kind of early 20th century technology with steam powered and elevated railways and the flying ships and all that stuff. It's so magical, and the kind of the deeper you go into the story, the more that this world kind of unfolds. When they get down into the mines and they hit these rocks and everything glows, it's just so magical, and that's the thing that I always love to do, is to make these believable worlds, and frankly, believable worlds that are very appealing to people. They kind of want to be there. They want to spend time in it, and that's what I think Miyazaki does so well too. Is everything he makes is so appealing, and frankly, even this museum is so appealing. You just want to be here.
2D か 3D かってその技法の違いは別としてそのお話がその平面の平たいところで展開されるんじゃなくて、非常に三次元的っていうんですかね、その上行ったり下行ったりっていうもうその縦の動きも使った空間を作ってると思うんですよ。で、そういうことをやっぱり心がけているんですかっていう。
My training is in 2D animation. I was trained by the great Disney artists and worked at the Disney studios. And I remember I was very interested as a young artist in studying how the masters drew with pencil and charcoal and see their line and how they defined form with a line. Then I got interested, I discovered computer animation. And the fundamental difference between the two is, in computer animation, it's a true three-dimensional world that you build within the computer. And my interest actually started changing into what I found myself studying. Now I started studying the paintings of masters like, de la Tour and Rembrandt, and how they painted light, and defined form in that way, and it became very dimensional, and I got very excited about building true three-dimensional worlds, and the lighting is what's got me so excited, and the way the shadows work and all, because I always use color and light in our films at Pixar to help define the underlying emotion of every scene. And I think it's one of the things I've gotten so excited about computer animation early on, is that lighting, is that how you can move the lighting around, and characters move in and out of light, seeing sunlight come through a Venetian blind and in a dusty room with the beams, just split, and a character walking through it, and you see all the stripes of light on them, and it could be so dramatic, and it's so hard to do in hand-drawn animation to make it convincing. And I just that's the kind of thing I just fell in love with this medium, and I keep thinking about those kinds of things, and with and that's why in every Pixar movie, you see lighting is a very, very, very important element. And it's always thought through, though. It's always used to help tell the story. What's the feeling? What's the emotion that's going on there? And in the action, I just fell in love with a three-dimensional space. And what excited me about computer animation also in the beginning was the fact that you were dealing with a true three-dimensional space. I always believe Walt Disney was striving through his entire career to get more dimension in his animation. He invented the multiplane camera. And that's kind of 2.5 dimensions, in the sense that it's really just a bunch of layers of 2D kind of set up in a 3D environment. And for me, when I saw computer animation for the very first time, I thought, Walt would have loved this. This is what Walt was waiting for. Because you could move in and around objects in the set, in your world. The Steadicam, the camera device for live-action filmmaking, where it's hooked to a camera operator, and camera's there, and it's all balanced by gyroscopes and stuff, so it's very fluid. But that made it so they can move in and around. And when filmmakers got a hold of this, like Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, they just took filmmaking to another level. And to me, computer animation was like, we can do Steadicam shots in animation. And so the way that we stage our action is very much, in a way, more like a live action film than animation, because we move in and out of the frame, not just going sideways, not even just going up and down, but really moving in and out of the frame, and using depth of field. And so that's what I love about computer animation, is the three-dimensional quality of it.
そのアニメーション作家っていうのは空間と時間を作るのがスクリーンの中に作るのが仕事ですよね。だからそういう意味で実は優れたアニメーション作家っていうのは優れた建築家の素養を持ってるんじゃないかという思う時あるんですよ。でそれはピクサーのスタジオを見た時の居心地の良さからも感じたんですけど、ラシターさんは僕の意見はどう思いますか？
Yeah. I think those animators who actually choose to work in the medium, I think a lot of them do really love architecture, love building things. First of all, animation is one of the most laborious, time-consuming, art forms there is, and it is a lot like building a building. That your story is your foundation. As you know, building a building, that you could build the most beautiful building on top and it looks great, but if the foundation's no good, the building is going to fall down. And that's what story is about. but in my case, I love working in the three-dimensional environment, and I'm always getting caught up in the buildings themselves. You know, I just love designing the buildings, and I can really relate to Miyazaki-san building so many buildings because, you know, my wife and I we tend to have a lot of little projects of building different buildings, you know, and so it's kind of nice. But I also believe in the I believe in the feeling of a building. I believe in the, you know, a building is there to house people, and I think the spirit of the people who are going to be living in the building need to be thought of so much as you build a building. And that's why I think that this museum, I also love our studio at Pixar, because our studio Pixar is really thought of from the people out, how we work, who we are. You know, all those things are kind of put in there. But then, you know, and then also with the respect of what brilliant artists that we have working at Pixar. And we finally have a building that we can, that is to the, you know, beauty that matches their ability, which is kind of nice. And everybody feels so proud being there, and yet it is very, very comfortable, you know.
ラスターさんがこの美術館の中で一番好きな場所はどこですか？
Yeah, let's see. It's hard to choose. Let's see. My favorite place in this museum, I think I would have to choose. Okay, it's either standing on the roof looking at the robot from Laputa, or sitting inside the cat bus. But I think I would have to choose kneeling down and staring into the Totoro zoetrope. That's probably my favorite place of the museum. It communicates what animation does to people more than anything else. It's so magical, you know, to see. I mean, you don't know. You helped build it, but you don't know what it's like to see it for the first time. You walk in and here's all these just sculptures there, and the thing starts to spin, and they almost disappear because they're spinning so fast, and then that strobe light comes on, and it's like magic. They are just alive right there. And what's interesting is that we're all familiar with Totoro. We've seen it many times, but that's animation on a screen. To see these figures, three-dimensional figures, right in front of you, alive and moving, it was like Totoro was real right there. And you get so captivated, and I find myself just looking at all the different figures moving. All of a sudden the strobe light goes off and you're like, wait, what, they're not alive? And the thing slows down and that sunrise comes up, and it's so beautiful. I must have sat there on my knees for a half an hour watching that. And it's so beautiful and magical, and so well done too. All the details are done so right, even the details that no one notices the first time through. But you know what? I always believe you feel it. You know, if you look at a really well-made animated film, like Miyazaki's films, and I hope like Pixar films, you know, you're not going to see all the work that goes into these films, but you're going to feel it. You would know if it wasn't there.
この美術館を建てる時に宮崎駿が僕らに何度も言ったことは、これ多分昔の偉い人の言葉でしょうけど、神はディティールに宿るって言ったんです。
God is in the details. We use that. God is in the details. Yeah, we use that term a lot at Pixar too, because I believe in that as well, because it's. My brother was a brilliant interior designer, an architect. And he always, his rule was that if you touch it, make it the absolute best it can be, because then you can make, you know, this other places out of other parts of the building out of more inexpensive materials. But if you touch it, make it the best, and then we'll have a sense of quality, because that tactile quality of the building, you want to feel that this is solid, this is beautiful, this is, it's great fabrics and woods and the brass and all that. It's so important to make it quality. So yeah, I agree. God is in the details.
わかりました。ありがとうございます。
Thank you.